All right, so we're continuing on with our lessons learned from 2025 and how we can sharpen the tools in the shed moving into 2026. One of those things, and we discussed this in our intro into this 2025 recap, was the shift to first party data, right? We talked last time about even in 2024 was the email apocalypse, right? Where you can't just buy a list and blast a list of 1,000 people with an email address anymore, right? After 50 emails, you're throttled if it's cold, right? And then your reputation and your email sending behavior is going to be negatively affected if you're not following those guidelines, right? So this is one of those really strong pieces of evidence that showed this moving away from third party data and a prioritization of first party data, right? If they're your own contacts, they opted in to your domain, you could send 1,000 emails to them a day, 10,000 emails to a list a day, right? If you're getting lists from a third party, you're buying a list from somebody, you're capped at like 50, right? And so that's a perfect example of limits on third party versus first party data. And there's a lot more information around that. And so last time what we talked about was this shift, right? This shift toward first party data. And I gave you guys a few strategies about how we can begin mastering ownership of that first party data, right? Managing it, cleaning it, maintaining it, collecting it. And so today's lesson is an extrapolation, a continuation of that sort of intro, which is let's get into the meaningful ways about how you can capture first party data and then leverage that first party data into growth, right? Into business success. So really, there's a few components that I want to cover in this one short training, but the thing I'm grateful for is we have a bunch of smaller trainings that we recorded previously that'll break down each and every component of what I'm about to talk about. Because essentially, what I'm discussing is a funnel, right? It's a version of a funnel. Some people have different definitions of what they believe a funnel to be, right? A funnel is this, right? A funnel is what you use to put oil into your car or whatever, right? Or baking or something. But in the sense of a business, a funnel can refer to a few different things. Some people interpret funnel as like a single page funnel, right? Like you go to the landing page and then it has a video and then it has some resources and then at the bottom is a capture. Some consider that a funnel. Other people consider the entire process, right? Like an advertisement going to a landing page, going to a form that goes to a webinar or a live meeting that closes with a signature, right? Like that is a funnel, like a whole funnel. So depending on what your definition of funnel, it's taking somebody from point A to point B, and you start with more and end with less. That's a general guideline. And so that's essentially what we're talking about with this first party data, guys. Creating and maintaining a funnel is what gets you first party data and gets you more business, right? Without buying lists from people or from services and stuff like that, or simply relying on your existing book of business, right? That is first party data, but that's limited also, right? It's limited to what you currently have. And if we're looking to grow and expand beyond just referrals, then we're looking at this strategy I'm going to teach you guys today. The very first thing, guy, and this is moving into 2026 because each of the technologies I'm going to touch on today are the worst that they're ever going to be, and they're going to continue to get better. And I want to start with sort of the most obvious one, which is an AI tool, right? An LLM, a Chat GPT, Grok, Anthropic, Claude, whatever one, Dubb, right? The auto we have built right into the dashboard. So whichever one you're using is actually not really important for the step that I'm going to show right now. But I want to start with this top of the funnel, regardless of we're talking about a one-page funnel, right? A single landing page, or that whole holistic funnel from the top of your business all the way to a close. This is going to be approachable for either one. The very first thing that we want to do, guys, is have a lead magnet, right? We need something that's going to bring people in to the top of that funnel. And there's really a couple of ways to go about this, but it's content, right? It's content and value that's going to get people into the top of this funnel. And so we've done a whole different piece on video topics, right? Like what types of videos should you be doing, right? What if you're going to use video, like on short form media for or YouTube, for example. So we've done several different trainings on content creation itself, like how to research it, how to use SEO to research which topics are actually being searched for. So this is the top of the funnel here, and how we create any sense of repeatability and growth strategy, right? We have to have something that powers up this whole engine that feeds the top of the funnel. So this is either the form of video content and you're posting to YouTube, TikTok, Meta, any of those, or you're paying advertisements, right? You're paying for ad platforms through Google or Meta or Bing or something like that. So whether it's paid media or organic, video is by far the most viral, right? Video is by far the most socially shareable, the most engaged with content at this time. And that's why we have the focus of Dubb using the teleprompter and the research. So anyway, I mentioned that I would touch into these bigger lessons. This is a master lesson, right? That's going to touch on a couple of smaller ones to give you a final. And just as a reiteration, if you guys are here watching this, you all will have access to this. And if you don't have access to this, this is why you would upgrade and get into Dubb so that you can have access to this curriculum. It's just one part of it. And this part is the access to the founder coaching curriculum, right? A lot of lessons on this page, guys, including what we were just talking about, the ability to use SEO to research, the ability to help you understand how to craft messages exactly for the people you're trying to attract. So every single one of those individual lessons is here, including how to build the forms we're going to talk about, how to trigger the automations, mastering automations, which is the nurturing and the workflows that are going to be. So everything that we're going to discuss has the longer tutorial here on the curriculum, accessible right through the dashboard. So forgive me for the sake of this training, where I'm going to reference that master training for a longer piece. So anyway, that just full reference. That's the master training that I'm referring to. So when I talk about, and this mastering automation video is going to show you how to build the rest, that's what I'm talking about, because that video by itself is 40 minutes. And that's just one piece of what we're talking about today. So anyways, back to square one, stage one of creating this, right? We're talking about the trends that are going to work, that I've shown to work well in 2025, that we can project to work well in 2026. The first part of that was what we discussed last time, the shift to first party data. If you guys saw, we did a presentation on this. This tool that I used to create this presentation is actually one of the tools I'm going to recommend to help with this shift, right? To help in this trend. This shift is to first party data. And in this training, we're showing you how to create the content that's going to help you collect and manage this first party data. Video is obviously a huge component of this. That's what we're doing right now. We're creating a video that's going to go on YouTube that's going to help power up this part of a funnel. For yourself, though, this would be a longer form. This is a YouTube video, right? But what about short form? What about like a TikTok or Instagram Reels? The trainings that we've done previously are here. So video is an extremely important component of this top of funnel. But there's another piece of this, which doesn't have to be video, right? There's more of a handout, a flyer, like this PDF here. This could be a PDF, right? This PowerPoint, this presentation here. This is another extremely valuable resource that I want to show you guys. So whether it's video or a PDF, a handout, a flyer, both of these pieces of content are going to start with the same step, which is brainstorming with AI, right? Again, there's a training on this talking about understanding SEO, search engine optimization, creating topics that people are actually searching for, right? If I say, how many people are searching for 8CV3975? Who even knows what that is? Nobody's searching for that. But if I said, how many people are searching for strategies for ChatGPT, right? Millions of people are searching for that. So that's why this very first piece is a little bit of research, because if you create a piece of content that nobody's looking for, nobody cares about, that's going to be a waste of your time. So we don't want to do that. The very first step, whether this is with Auto or ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, is going to be to brainstorm an outline for a piece of content. The important pieces of that are, it's well researched, it's in demand. And again, coming back to the coaching showcase there's a few lessons in here about how to do the research, right? How to have a better message, how to craft stories, how to, craft perfect messages and value propositions for very specific folks, which is each one of those lessons are foundational to what I'm talking about, right? Because if I do the research on what? I have to know who my ICP is to know who I'm doing research for, to know what type of people, what type of things those people I'm looking to sell to are searching for. So each lesson builds upon itself. Foundation is understanding your clients, who you're looking for. The next piece is what types of content, videos or handouts, flyers, presentations can I create to attract and provide value to that audience? And you come into your AI and ask for, if you want to create a handout or a video, this is up to you personally, right? If you're like, I love video is easy for me, I'm going to do videos. Where I like some flyers, some handouts, get the guide, get the PDF, because that's going to power up a funnel. I recommend both, right? Because some people prefer others. Some people prefer to watch a short video. Some people prefer to watch a really long video. And some people prefer to read. Some people prefer to get their hands on something like an ebook. And so I recommend accommodating for all the different types and also accommodating for your own personal style. If you hate doing videos, right? Maybe you're in the wrong platform, or you've leveraged AI or have a video person, or maybe it's just uncomfortable and you force yourself sometimes, or maybe you really like to write or create flyers and Canva and stuff. So play to your strengths, but also test the market, test the audience that you're trying to go after. What do they prefer? Because those two things will tell us what's going to work best. Anyway, step one here, I'm gonna actually give a real thing. I'm gonna say create a outline to be used in gamma.app. Create a PDF presentation. The outline is introducing using video for sales. Very, very generic thing that I'm entering here, right? To have it say, hey, give me this. And this would something, again, you can put into ChatGPT, you can put into any one of these tools to get what you're trying to get out of it. And in this case, I would say ask a question, or let me see, what is Dubb? And then Auto's having an issue right now, it looks like. Anyways, so we'd use ChatGPT in that case. More of you might be familiar with it. So you just throw that in there, create an outline for a presentation. From here, this is where you can also decide, do you want to do a video or do you want to do a presentation? I actually asked for the gamma.app outlines. This is a feature guide. This is one of my favorite tools for creating quick presentations like this. It also can be used to create like a PDF, a flyer, a handout. It's essentially the same thing. You would just ask it to be formatted for one for presentation or handout. So, right, I generated these slides in 2 seconds. I said, hey, generate some slides. If I don't like these, I ask for more until I do like them. And then from there, it says literally just a copy, right? Look, it's not quite done yet, but this one's way too long. I wouldn't say so many slides. Most handouts and flyers and PDFs, unless it's an ebook, right? An ebook can be longer, but in my opinion, this is too many slides. So I would certainly shorten that. But without that, I could even just copy, and I could come into a tool like Gamma and I could say, create a new one. And it's literally this easy, right? Paste in text, and I paste in my text, and I say, preserve this text, or, highlight it, outline it, summarize it, whatever. So in this case, it already has bullets, so I can probably just preserve it. And my point being is that whether you're doing a video or an outline, a handout, I recommend trying both. And you have these tools, guys, at your disposal to make these things 1,000 times easier than they would previously. To make a presentation like this would have taken hours, right? To add all the little elements and images and color scheme and make everything match, well, it would have taken hours. Even for somebody that's good at this stuff, it would have taken a very long time. And it's instant now. So you can make very valuable ebooks, PDFs, flyers, handouts, or videos, right? I'm only showing this one because this is the alternative to video, is something else, like a physical. I'm going to recommend video first, though, right? Video, like, look on social media. That's what goes viral. That's what people share. That's what people comment and react on. On Facebook, you don't see a lot of hyper viral text-based posts, right? They're there, but just not nearly as many. Meanwhile, TikTok and YouTube and more popular platforms that have more active daily engaged users are all video and no text. Threads, maybe. Anyways, this first piece, guys, I'm showing you is how to start the top of this funnel, to how to collect first-party data, because you have to create your own content. You have to create your own stuff in order to do this. Otherwise, we're going to be beholden to buying lists and third-party data, right? Asking for somebody else to give it to us versus being able to feed ourselves. So that's really what this is all about, is moving forward into this very uncertain future. right? With some certainty, with some ability to feed ourselves, because that stuff's not going away. TikTok and Instagram and YouTube's not going away anytime really soon. And so this is an ability to create content that's going to go on those platforms. Now, all I introduced was a concept of using research, SEO, understanding your audience, exactly who they are, to craft content, PDFs, flyers, videos, to then post, to then put behind ad dollars, right? That's the first part of this. The next piece of this, guys, is to then get that out in front of people. Like we said, is this through emails? Is this posted to social? Is it through paid media? In the content of email and organic posting, we'll start there, because advertising, we have a whole different course that we trade, a whole different training on that. And it's also very different for Meta or Google and stuff like that. So we'll leave paid media out of this, because they often have their own built-in forms in any case. And we're going to go organic for the sake of this training. Part one, you've done your research, you've created some awesome piece of content. Now we need to use that piece of content to grow our business. So the very next part of that is building lead capture, right? With it. Social media doesn't provide lead capture sort of natively built in, right? TikTok doesn't have a form to capture a lead. YouTube doesn't have that either, right? You can have a comment, you can have a DM with some people. A DM is the closest thing to capturing a lead, like on Instagram or Meta, right? A DM, and we have your messenger network. Outside of that, we need an ability to extract people from the ether, right? From social or YouTube or TikTok or wherever, into our database, into our CRM, into first-party data. Finding them on social is not first-party data. That is social media's data. Once you have their phone number and email, that is the first-party data that you own. And that's what the goal that we're trying to get to. So part one, we understand we have some research, some homework to create a valuable piece of content. The next piece is, how do we use that content to actually capture the lead? For some of you guys, this is not brand new, but for others, I want to make sure you get the step of how to do it. And it's through the use of a form, right? A form is like, give me your first name, last name, email, or phone number, or something like that. There's several different examples of forms these days. Often a calendar, right? This is a calendar. A calendar also has a form connected to it. So a calendar, a Calendly, is completely free, right? This can certainly suffice as a form. So the call to action that's connected to the content we just talked about can certainly be a calendar. Many of these calendar tools like Calendly have some form of autoresponder, right? You book a meeting, you get a confirmation that the meeting was created and the meeting link and things like that. So many of you will be very familiar with this concept of using a form to capture the lead, and then from there, triggering an autoresponder. But that's not the end of the journey, right? The fortunes in the follow-up, people's attention spans are so short, we need a dozen touch points after that, at least. 8 to 12 is what they said years ago, 5+ years ago. It was 8 to 12 touch points before you expected to capture a lead to create a conversion. That was the average. So if you're expecting to say, hey, post one video, they submit one form, and then I got a sale, that I would say is you're 12 touch points away from the proper expectations, right? And I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm saying that as from a mindset, from a framing, from a appropriate expectation standpoint, we should expect 8 to 12 touch points being required from the time that they submit this form. So we did our research. We did this awesome homework. We understood our ICP. We crafted a really good value proposition. And then we put together an awesome asset, a video, a guide, a handout, a flyer, a resource that somebody can't wait to get a hold of. That was step one. Step two, we used a form, either a form like a calendar, or we created a form on Dubb, right? This is completely native inside of Dubb. You can create a form that captures whatever data points that you want. Emails, first names, phone numbers, multi-point questions, right? Fill in the blanks, paragraph response. Whatever you want to capture from somebody, you can create a form on Dubb or use off-the-shelf forms like the calendar, like we discussed. As far as forms go, for lead capture, guys, you want the bare minimum, right? If all you need is the phone number and a name, ask for only that. In this case, you want an email as well. My opinion, name, number, email are the data points you want. Sometimes it's not even number. Some people are very hesitant to give out a personal cell phone number. The last thing they want is to be called or texted. So in my opinion, name and email is the minimum that you would need. Name, email, maybe you can see my form here, right? Name and email are required. The phone number is optional. So something like that is what your form should probably contain. The bare minimum of what you absolutely need for your business to function. And I'll tell you this, guys, for each additional field on a form will reduce the conversion rate and number of submissions. So I only recommend adding fields to your forms, to your questions that you need. If you don't need them, don't put them there because it will reduce the number of opportunities you get. So part one, we created an awesome asset, an ebook, a video, a training. Part two, we've created a form either on Dubb or with a calendar that's going to help us capture this lead. With the calendar tool or with Dubb, there is a built-in automatic response, right? With Dubb, you can have a completion action where I can forward them to a website, another video. I can display a custom message that says, thanks, we'll be in touch. Or I could add a tag to them, which can then be used to trigger a workflow, an automation. That would actually be my highest and best recommendation, is to do maybe say thank you or we'll be in touch, whatever. But more importantly, to add them into the workflow automatically. I just gave you guys a little mini lecture on the 8 to 12 touch points, right? So you already know that somebody finding your thing on social or through an email or through ads or whatever, they submitted the form. We already know we're expecting 8 to 12 touch points. How many times are you going to call them or email them or text message them manually, right? Versus all of those touch points can be automated, right? You can send texts and emails and or reminders for you to do those things manually, or a combination of those things. Combination, again, is what I would recommend. If you're in a small business scenario where every opportunity counts, you want to call, you'll want to text, and you'll want automatic messages filling in the gaps. And so that's what that would look like. The tag would trigger an automation where the automation is then going to send this is a perfect example of that. This is an ebook, right? We have a guide, an ebook. Once the form gets triggered, it delivers the ebook to them, and then also tells us to, hey, go follow up with the people that downloaded the ebook. So that's a combination of an email, a text message, and a manual reminder in a workflow. This is what every single effort that you guys are doing. If you're posting anything online, if you're sending email campaigns, if you're creating resources, you're selling yourself short by not having a nice automation connected to whatever that is. And this is just going again back to the start of this picture. We talked about the research, creating a valuable piece of content, having that content be gated, having it have a form, have a trigger that says, oh, you want this thing, this awesome free resource for you? Perfect. Give us your information. And then that triggers the workflow, the automation. I promised I would reference the longer trainings. Again, it's all in the same place, so you don't have to look very far. Each of the things I'm discussing, though, like mastering that automation, building that auto responder campaign, so they see your video online, they say, wow, this is really cool. I want the guide. I want the training. I want the course that he's offering. They fill out the form. It says, thanks. Here's the guide. Here's the video. Here's the thing. And by the way, you're also going to get a series of messages through an automation. And now you're staying top of mind with those people automatically through text, through email, through manual reminders. And it all happened from that one very end to the top of the funnel, right? From that single piece of content creation that they engaged with on any channel, YouTube, TikTok, doesn't matter. And in fact, one piece of content that you created can power up all of those pieces. And we have another training here about that, about how to use one piece of content for everything. I don't know if it's actually here yet, but it will be. I know I have the video, the trainings here for recycling, repurposing content. It's like the waterfall method, cascade method. I don't remember what the thumbnail says, but each of those lessons are here, guys. And if they're not, they will be very, very shortly, because I have a few that are backlogged that are coming here. So anyways, full picture of what today's lesson encapsulated, right? Step number one, understanding that there's a research phase. You don't just talk about whatever you feel like. You talk about what your ideal customer, who is exactly that you want to work with. There's a training on that, right? Your ICP. So who is it exactly that you want to work with? Understanding to do some research, right? There's training in here for researching your ideal customer, understanding them. and then crafting messages, crafting content that they're actually looking for, right? Whether that's SEO or gut research. My point is, you're not shooting in the dark. You're using thoughtful intelligence and research to craft content, videos, ebooks, flyers, PDFs, blog posts, right? Blogs is a whole nother level of complexity. I won't even scratch that here because it's by far the most complex right now. We do a lot of blogging. It generates a lot of business, but it's just one more piece of the puzzle. And it's outside of social, right? You can incorporate social with it, but it's not something I discussed today. So we said research your ideal customer, craft content for them, post it, share it, email it, advertise it. Then we're going to have forms, calendars or forms, right? Some sort of intake lead capture that then triggers a full automation. We're not just going to get the contact and do nothing with it. How many of us are super guilty of that, right? Oh, I put this thing and I got some submissions and the leads are just sitting there. I know everybody I've worked with is guilty of that. Let's not be guilty of that moving into 2026, right? So instead, you do a little bit of homework. We build out the workflow. We build out the autoresponder process so that when we post, everything, the infrastructure is already built and you don't have to redo that every time. And then that way, it's that much easier to post next time because you don't have to rebuild the entire engine and the workflow and whatever. You're literally just doing that little bit of research. What do people want to hear about today? Let me check the internet. Let me see what's in the news. What's according to my research and who my ICP, who I'm trying to attract, what is it that they need to hear today or this week or this month? You post that, and then the rest of the funnel is already built, right? You have a lead capture connected to it automatically, and it powers up everything else. So then you can focus on the top of the funnel, feeding that piece, and then have the machine, the system, take care of everything else. That's ultimately what I want you guys to take away from this. First, Dubb is a single platform that can support every single part of what I described, from creating the content to posting the content to the lead capture to the autoresponder to the CRM management data cleanup. That's what we talked about last time as well. So every single thing can be done within Dubb or in conjunction with any technologies that you guys are using. So that's the takeaway from it. A full funnel is available at your fingertips. You have the lessons and the training here. We can come give you feedback on any one part of your funnel, your process, your content, whatever it is. So not only do you have the technology, but you have some experts here every single week. Every day there's a live training, and there's this session at least once a week where you can come get some really critical analysis and feedback available for you guys. So that's everything. This is lesson number 2 here on 2025 trend analysis and postmortem into what's working in 2026. We'll see you in the next one, guys.